Hari Ram, Hari Ram. Rama, Rama, Hari, 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 Hari Ram, Hari, 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 Hari Ram, Hari, 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 Hari Ram, Hari Ram, Hari, 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 Hari Hari Ram, Hari, Hari Ram, Hari. All right, devotees, here we go. This evening is our 77th evening of Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, and we are in the very, very last part. In fact, I think I'm sure, famous last words, but no, I'm sure. Tonight will be our last evening. We will conclude the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we are up to, what are we up to? 29. We start on 29. We start, okay, on 29. And we've got 40. We've got another 11 or 12 verses to do. Okay, so it's the 19th chapter, last chapter of the first canto, titled The Appearance of Shukadeva Goswami. And the point we're at, right here at the end of the 19th chapter, last chapter, first canto, we're at verse 19, where it's in the section where Shukadeva Goswami arrives on the scene where Maharaj Parikshit is, fasting to death. So, but first of all, let us chant our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nera Vishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadeshatarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripas sindhubhya evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right. Devotees, then, here we are. It's chapter 19, first canto Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 19, verse 29. And let us read the verse. Just a sec. Maharaj Parikshit, who's also known as Vishnu Rata, one who is always protected by Vishnu, bowed his head to receive the chief guest, Shukadeva Goswami. At that time, all the ignorant women and boys ceased following Srila Shukadeva. Receiving respect from all, Shukadeva Goswami took his exalted seat. Yes, so everyone stood up, except, Prabhupada says, Vyas and Narada. Vyas is his spiritual master and father, and Narada is the spiritual master of his spiritual master. So they're really seniors. And Prabhupada says a few others also. I don't know who. Maybe Lord Shiva didn't stand up, but he was there. Anyway, And Parikshit bowed to him, Shukadeva, with full dandavats. And Shukadev exchanged greetings by embracing, shaking hands, nodding, bowing down especially before his father Vyasadeva Narada. And then he was offered, Prabhupada says, the presidential seat. Basically means sort of the Vyasasan or just that sort of thing. Right. So, as the verse says, there was a whole group of women and children following him because he was moving around naked, which is, by social standards, it's really strange. And just really, anyway, it's kind of negative situation. So they were mocking him, basically. But then they saw, because these people, children to some degree, but definitely the ladies, the adults, they know what sadhus are. And you walk into an assembly like this, where there's hundreds of these big sadhus. Yeah, so Prabhupada says, when this happened, when all these things happened, the street boys and the women, Prabhupada says, were wonderstruck and fearful, so they left. And then everyone was very grave and calm. 30. Shukadev Goswami was then surrounded by saintly sages and demigods, just as the moon is surrounded by stars, planets, and other heavenly bodies. His presence was gorgeous, and he was respected by all. So, okay, yeah, there's a short paragraph, purport here. So there's so many saintly persons, Vyasa, Narada. We mentioned there was Parashuram was there. He's an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada says some of them were powerful incarnations of the Lord. Not just one, but there were a few of them. And Shukadev, he wasn't well known as a leading sadhu or something of that sort. But just by looking at him, because they're all extremely tuned in and very perceptive, so just by looking at him, they could see this person is on the highest level of all of us. Right. So this means, Prabhupada says, this means that the devotee of the Lord is more honored in the world than the Lord himself. One should therefore never minimize the importance of a devotee like Shukadev Goswami. Text 31. The sage Sri Shukadev Goswami sat perfectly pacified, intelligent, and ready to answer any question without hesitation. The great devotee Maharaj Parikshit approached him, offered his respects by bowing before him, and politely inquired with sweet words and folded hands. Okay, there's a reasonably, fairly substantial purport here. So Prabhupada begins by saying, Maharaj Parikshit's gesture of questioning the master is quite befitting in terms of scriptural injunctions, because the injunction is that one must approach the spiritual master in that way, very humbly and folded hands and sweet words like that. So Parikshit had 7 days. He needed a spiritual master like now. So he's got one. And Prabhupada says, This is essential for someone who wants to solve the problems of life. But on the other hand, if you don't have questions, or Prabhupada says, if you don't know how to put questions before the spiritual master, you got no business seeing him. And of course you can just listen, that's also fine. And Shukadev, he's fully qualified as a spiritual master. So therefore, both the spiritual master and the disciple, Shukadev Maharaj Parikshit, attained perfection through the medium of the Bhagavatam. One hearing the other, or one hearing the other speaking. Right. So, Prabhupada says, Shukadev, before Maharaj Parikshit, he recited the Bhagavatam and answered the questions of Parikshit unhesitatingly. And thus, both the master and the disciple got salvation. All right, very good. So now we come to the last section. Parikshit addresses Shukadev. And it's from verse 32 to verse 40, which is the end of the chapter. So let's read the verses as usual. 32, the fortunate King Parikshit said, O Brahman, by your mercy only, you have sanctified us, making us like unto places of pilgrimage. All by your presence here as my guest. By your mercy we, who are but unworthy royalty, become eligible to serve the devotee. That's just amazing, amazing. So much emphasis is put on serving the devotees. So much emphasis. Verse 33. Simply by our remembering you, our houses become instantly sanctified. And what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your holy feet, and offering you a seat in our home. Verse 34. Just as the atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead, so also the invulnerable sins of a man are immediately vanquished in your presence, O saint, O great mystic. 35. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who's very dear to the sons of King Pandu, has accepted me as one of those relatives just to please his great cousins and brothers. 36. Otherwise, without being inspired by Lord Krishna, how is it that you have voluntarily appeared here, though you are moving incognito to the common man and are not visible to us who are on the verge of death? 37. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I am therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons, and especially for one who's about to die. Now, if you were tuned in, I think, well, those of you who were here, you would know this is a paraphrasing of the same verse, which we read, I think we read last night. Yeah. What is the way, what is the duty, what is the way of perfection for everyone, especially for one who's about to die? Right. 38. Please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. 39. O powerful Brahman, it is said that you hardly stay in the houses of men long enough to milk a cow. And verse 40, which is the end. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the king thus spoke and questioned the sage, using sweet language. Then the great and powerful personality, the son of Vyasadeva, who knew the principles of religion, began his reply. Right, so that's it. That's the end of the first canto, but let's go through these verses again with their purports. A couple of the verses don't have purports actually, but anyway, let's get into it. 32. The fortunate King Parikshit said, O Brahman, by your mercy only you have sanctified us, making us like unto places of pilgrimage, all by your presence here as my guest. By your mercy we, who are but unworthy royalty, become eligible to serve the devotee. Okay, so there's a fairly substantial purport here. Prabhupada begins by saying that saintly devotees like Shukadev generally don't approach the worldly enjoyers. And Prabhupada gives the example of Lord Chaitanya, that Maharaj Prataparudra tried repeatedly to approach him, but Lord Chaitanya refused, wouldn't meet him, because he was a king. Until after a while, when Prataparudra, you could say, proved himself sufficiently. Otherwise, Lord Chaitanya was just not going to meet him. He was just not meeting him. Even though Prataparudra was a devotee. Yeah. So, for someone who wants to go back to Godhead, two things are strictly prohibited. One is worldly enjoyers are strictly prohibited. I thought I'd made a mistake that it's like association of worldly enjoyers, but Prabhupada just says two things are strictly prohibited: worldly enjoyers and women. Or you can say the opposite sex. Yeah. So devotees like Shukadev Goswami are just not interested in seeing kings or people like that. But Maharaj Parikshit is different because he's a very great devotee. And he's famous for being a very great devotee. So Parikshit felt an unworthy descendant of his forefathers, the Pandavas particularly, although he was actually as great as them. And those who are unworthy descendants of forefathers, in the case of Kshatriya families, forefathers who are Kshatriyas, then the unworthy children, unworthy sons are called Kshatra Bandhus. Yes. And the unworthy sons of Brahmins are called Dvija Bandhus or Brahma Bandhus. Dvija meaning dvi, two, twice, and ja is short for birth. Janma, Dvija, twice born, but just bandhus, friends of the twice born, but not actually to that standard at all. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, Maharaj Parikshit was greatly encouraged by the presence of Shukadev Goswami. He felt himself sanctified by the presence of the great saints, whose presence turns any place into a place of pilgrimage. Right. Verse 33, simply by our remembering you, our houses become instantly sanctified. And what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your holy feet, and offering you a seat in our home. if just remembering you completely sanctifies, then what do these other things which are much more, direct and personal, what result do they give? Whew, something really amazing. So Prabhupada makes the point, first of all, that holy places, whatever holy places, are important because of the sages there. Nowadays, when you go to, particularly Vrindavan stands out the most because it's such a popular area now. It is so popular. Then so many people go there, and so many people who want to make money go there. And they dress up as sadhus and beg and beg and beg, and it's just terrible, actually. Yeah. But still there are some sincere devotees there. Of course, our ISKCON devotees are generally very sincere. So Prabhupada continues, sinful people go to holy places to leave sins, but saints disinfect the places, so therefore the places remain sanctified. So if such devotees go to the houses of worldly people, the people's sins become neutralized. After all, that's how the holy places neutralize, according to this. The holy places neutralize because of the presence of the sages. The sages actually neutralize. So if one of the sages or some go to your house, then they neutralize the sins in the house. So saints have no self-interest to visit householders. They don't want to make money. They don't want to eat or drink or anything like that. They only want to help the people, and therefore the grihastas should be very grateful. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, a householder who dishonors such holy orders is a great offender. It is enjoined, therefore, that a householder who does not bow down before a saint at once must undergo fasting for the day in order to neutralize the great offense. And in fact, Prabhupada said that when you meet a sannyasi, at least first time in the day, you must offer obeisances. If you don't, you have to fast. Yeah. All right. 34. Just as the atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead, so also the invulnerable sins of a man are immediately vanquished in your presence, O saint, O great mystic. All right, so Srila Prabhupada says there are two types of people in the most sort of fundamental sense. There are atheists and there are devotees. Devotees are called devas or demigods, and atheists are called demons. Yeah. And the demons can't stand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they try to vanquish him or argue him out of existence or something. Yeah. But as soon as the Lord appears, either by name, just by name, or form, etc., then form, attributes, pastimes, paraphernalia, or even his variegatedness, the demon is at once vanquished. Ghosts cannot remain where the holy name is chanted. Saints and devotees are his paraphernalia, the Lord's paraphernalia. So as soon as they're present, ghosts are vanquished. You may remember there's the famous verse, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarchanam, famous verse, which says, Aradhananam sarvesham, out of all types of worship, Vishnu aradhanam param, the worship of Vishnu is the supreme. But tasmat parataram devi, however, he's speaking to his wife Durga, it's Lord Shiva. Tadiyanam samarchanam, to worship the paraphernalia is even higher than worshipping Vishnu himself. And Prabhupada, in explaining that verse, which is a famous verse actually, and you come across it, it's not unusual at all. So Prabhupada makes the point that tadiya means the paraphernalia, like the books, the arti paraphernalia, the cartels, and just the stuff which gets used. So Prabhupada makes the point very emphatically that devotees are part of the tadiya. They're part of the paraphernalia. So Prabhupada mentions that here. Saints and devotees are the Lord's paraphernalia. So as soon as the devotees are present, ghosts are vanquished. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, one is recommended, therefore, to associate only with saintly devotees, so that worldly demons and ghosts cannot exert their sinister influence. And verse 35. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is very dear to the sons of King Pandu, has accepted me as one of those relatives just to please his great cousins and brothers. This is Parikshit speaking. He's accepted me. Yeah. A pure devotee helps his family, Prabhupada says, better than people who are materialistic. Yeah. Even if they're relatives or, whoever they may be. Yeah. Oh, my Lord. Sorry. Generally, people are attached to family matters and don't understand that to serve the family is best done by doing devotional service. Yeah. And classic example Prabhupada gives is Prahlad. And we all know the situation with Prahlad. But because he's such a great devotee, his father got salvation, which otherwise he would not have got, to put it mildly. So even Prabhupada says the Lord protects the family members of devotees, so devotees don't have to worry. Even if he leaves the family to do devotional service, it's okay. They may not understand it, but actually it is okay. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, Maharaj Yudhisthira and his brothers were the sons of Kunti, the paternal aunt of Lord Krishna. And Maharaj Parikshit admits the patronage of Lord Krishna because of his being the only grandson of the great Pandavas. He's the only grandson, the only grandchild. I think, yeah. Only grandson. 36. Otherwise, without being inspired by Lord Krishna, how is it that you have voluntarily appeared here, though you are moving incognito to the common man and are not visible to us who are on the verge of death? So it's a fact. Prabhupada makes the point. It's definitely a fact that Sukadeva was inspired by Krishna to come to Parikshit to give the Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada says, one can achieve the nucleus of devotional service by the mercy of the spiritual master and the Lord. Shukadeva's an authorized spiritual master, so the Lord inspired him to come to Parikshit and teach Srimad Bhagavatam. One can achieve ultimate success if the Lord sends a true representative. So the guarantee will be there to go back to Godhead. But it depends on the sincerity of the devotee. Yes. So, the Lord's watching everyone and knows when someone is eager to go back to Godhead. And then at that point, he sends the bona fide representative. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the conclusion is that to get the assistance and help of a bona fide spiritual master means to receive the direct help of the Lord himself. How's that? Pretty powerful. So now Parikshit addresses or puts a request, I suppose you'd say, or a question to Shukadeva, verse 37. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I am therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons, and especially for one who is about to die. Yeah, like I said, virtually the same verse appeared. Let me just read it. It's not long before. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. It's verse 24 in the same chapter. It's verse 24. Parikshit speaking, O trustworthy Brahmins, I now ask you about my immediate duty. Please, after proper deliberation, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die. So there you go. You couldn't get more to the point, really, than I mean, a slightly different wording, of course, but I'm therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons, and especially for one who's about to die, and that's him. So Prabhupada, he gets into it. Unless you want to inquire about perfecting your life, you don't need a spiritual master. You don't need one. And if somehow you get one, but you don't want to inquire, you're not interested in that sort of thing, then you're going to make offenses. Yeah. And you may ask him for something, some money or something material. Yeah. So a spiritual master, Prabhupada says, is not a kind of decoration for householders or for anyone, for that matter. Prabhupada says, generally a fashionable materialist engages a so-called spiritual master without any profit. The pseudo-spiritual master flatters the so-called disciple, and thereby both the master and his ward go to hell without a doubt. That's to the point. So Parikshit is the right disciple. He's got the right questions, and he's just so interested to find out. So his questions are the basic principle of the thesis of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, now let us see how intelligently the great master replies. So verse 38. Please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. And verse 39, O powerful Brahmin, it is said that you hardly stay in the houses of men long enough to milk a cow. So, okay, there's a purport here. Looks like a short purport. No, not so short, really. So saints and sages in the renounced order of life go to the houses of the householders at the time they milk the cows. Yes, what time do you milk the cows? You're the only householder here. Maybe at the time they get back from the supermarket. Something like that. And Prabhupada makes a point. Well, he makes a number of points, of course. A pound of milk, fresh from the milk bag of a cow, a pound is half a kilo, or slightly less, 0.9 of a kilo. I mean a liter or a kilo. And Prabhupada says, therefore saints and sages live only on milk or milk products. Like Raghunath Das Goswami, he lived on 1 leaf cup of buttermilk a day. That was the end. Right, so the saints like Shukadev would stay there not more than 5 minutes in the morning at the place of the householder, give some instruction, not simply, where's the milk? They wouldn't even need to ask, but to give some instruction. So therefore, the saints were really seen by householders. When they are seen, when the householders see them, the householders should ask for real instructions, not ask for something available in the market. Okay, devotees, that was verse 39. Now we come to the very last verse, which also doesn't have a purport. So we're going to finish early tonight. Hari Bol. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the king thus spoke and questioned the sage, using sweet language. Then the great and powerful personality, the son of Vyasadeva, who knew the principles of religion, began his reply. And thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 19th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Appearance of Shukadev Goswami. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So devotees, please come, get a little Mahaprasad. and a little oil from Radharani.